Summer 1959, an alpine lake in Austria. Dark, deep, and cold. A diver goes down and comes up with a wooden crate. Inside, banknotes, British £5 notes, bundled, waterlogged, and by the look of them, perfect. Then another crate, and another. Millions of pounds resting at the bottom of a mountain lake hundreds of miles from London. The Bank of England examined them and confirmed what a few people had known and kept quiet about for years. These notes were forgeries, the finest ever made, and they weren't printed by criminals. They were printed by a government as a weapon of war. This is the story of the largest counterfeiting operation in history. 1939. Germany is at war with Britain, and inside the Reich, a plan takes shape that has nothing to do with tanks or bombers. The idea: destroy Britain without firing a shot by attacking its money. Print millions upon millions of fake pounds, shower them over Britain from the air, and watch the currency collapse under a flood of paper no one could trust. Inflation as a bomb, confidence as the target. There was just one problem, and if you've seen our first episode, you already know it. The British pound was one of the hardest objects on earth to fake. Special rag paper with a chemistry all its own, a watermark woven into the sheet itself. Engraving so fine it behaved like a fingerprint. Germany's first attempt stalled on exactly those defences. To beat the pound, you didn't need printers. You needed artists, chemists, engravers, bankers who knew paper the way a violinist knows wood. And in 1942, the SS found them, in the one place it controlled completely. Okay, the operation was named after the SS officer who ran it, Bernhard Kruger. And what he built has no parallel in the history of crime, because his workforce had no choice at all. Kruger combed the Nazi concentration camps for prisoners with the right skills: printers, engravers, typographers, bankers, and at least one convicted professional forger, a man named Salomon Smolyanov. He assembled a unit of 142 men, most of them Jewish, and installed them in 2 sealed barracks inside Sachsenhausen concentration camp, north of Berlin. One of them was Adolf Berger, a Slovak printer arrested with his wife and sent to Auschwitz. For him and for every man in those barracks, the arrangement was as simple as it was monstrous. Forge perfectly and live, for now. Fail and be killed. Their skill was their survival. Berger survived the war. He spent the rest of his long life telling the world exactly what happened in those 2 barracks, in a memoir he called, without exaggeration, The Devil's Workshop. What those men achieved, under duress, at gunpoint, now remains the technical high watermark of counterfeiting. They cracked the paper, the exact rag-based recipe, aged and handled until it felt right. They reproduced the watermark. They engraved plates so precise that the flaws they copied included the Bank of England's own tiny imperfections, because a fake that's too perfect is its own giveaway. By late 1943, the workshop was turning out close to 1 million notes a month. 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s. Estimates of the total run from £132 million to as high as £300 million, at a time when that sum was a meaningful slice of all the sterling on earth. When the Bank of England later examined them, the verdict, by the accounts that reached the public, was simple: the most dangerous forgeries it had ever seen. But here's the twist: the original plan, raining money over Britain, never happened. By then, Germany's bombers were needed elsewhere, so the fake pounds became something else: a slush fund for the Reich's secret war. They paid spies. They bought supplies and loyalties across occupied Europe. By some museum accounts, forged notes may even have helped fund the operation that snatched Mussolini from captivity. The perfect fake never destroyed Britain's economy. Instead, it quietly financed the shadow war. Inside the workshop, a second, quieter drama was playing out. The SS wanted the American dollar next, and the prisoners, knowing the war was turning, stalled. They slow-walked the hardest technical problems, buying time with perfectionism. It was sabotage disguised as craftsmanship, and it worked. The dollar was never mass-produced. By the spring of 1945, the Reich was collapsing. The unit was evacuated south, first toward Mauthausen, then into tunnel complexes in the Austrian Alps, with orders to keep printing, then orders to destroy everything, burn the notes, sink the plates. The prisoners expected to be executed with the secret. In the chaos of the final days, their guards fled instead, and in May 1945, the forgers of Sachsenhausen were liberated, alive. The evidence went into the water. Crates of notes and the printing plates were sunk in Lake Toplitz, deep in the Austrian mountains, where they waited in the dark for 14 years, until that diver in 1959 brought the secret back to the surface. Roughly £9 million worth was hauled out and destroyed. A single £10 printing plate survived. It sits in a museum today. And Bernhard Kruger? Detained after the war, questioned, released without charge. At his denazification hearing, former prisoners, the men he had held, testified, and he was acquitted. He lived out a quiet life, working, of all places, for the paper company that had supplied the operation. So, did the largest counterfeiting operation in history fail? As a weapon, yes. Britain's economy never buckled. But look at what it forced. In 1943, the Bank of England pulled every note above £5 out of circulation. The £10 note didn't come back for 2 decades, not until 1964. The 20 returned in 1970. The 50 not until 1981. And when they returned, they were transformed, colourful, complex, layered with the security features we explored in episode 1. Much of what makes the money in your pocket hard to fake exists because 142 prisoners in 2 sealed barracks proved how good a fake could be. That is the real legacy of Operation Bernhard. Not the money it printed, the money it changed. And it proved something governments have never forgotten. Counterfeiting isn't just crime, it's a weapon. One that states have been accused of aiming at each other ever since. But states aren't the only players. Next time on Hard Currency, the modern master. A man who printed $250 million in fake bills in a quiet workshop, sold them, got caught, and walked away almost free. The greatest counterfeiter alive, and the loophole that saved him. Subscribe. You won't believe this one's legal ending.